Boot camp is all about preparation. No matter the battlefield or the terrain, you must be ready. Champions aren't defined by when they win, but in the weeks, months, and years they spend preparing for victory. And in our walk of faith, we must study to show ourselves approved. So, are you ready? This is basic training. Welcome to boot camp.
Yeah. It's a moment in Deuteronomy, this book, which is a very encouraging book. It's an encouraging book because it is a book that gives us an opportunity to see God operate in our lives, encourage us when we know that we have not been at our best. For many of us, 2018 was a good year, but is there anybody that can be honest enough to admit it could have been a better year for me? Yeah. We've all gone through that moment where we've all had to deal with this. It's a moment where and I feel so led for us to go into this moment of boot camp, because it is in boot camp, in basic training. It's that moment where, however you want to look at it, they are preparing those subjects to war. That they're preparing their minds, preparing them physically to be able to handle the fights. And I wish the children of God could grab a hold of this truth, that we recognize that we too are in a fight, that we're in a war, that we are going up against an enemy that does not want to see you receive all that God wants you to receive. And see, this is where the challenge comes with the believers, because the challenge with the believers, watch this, is the fact that we find ourselves knowing that we're in a fight, knowing we're in a war, but we still find ourselves stepping on a battlefield acting normal. We walk out and have these moments where we actually think everything is all right, when you have an enemy out there trying to hinder you from reaching your full potential in God. He's trying. And this is what's so interesting. He's not just trying one time. This is a continuous fight. Text says when you go to war, war is not just a moment where you have a one-time battle with someone. This is when they have dedicated their lives and making sure they don't stop until they accomplish their agenda over you. So don't be shocked when you have something that you have fought against and then just out of nowhere it shows up again. Because it may be that you may have won the battle the first time. They left, went and regrouped, and came back with a different strategy on how to get you. And then maybe you won again. So they said, okay, well, obviously I'm struggling with getting you, so let me go and regroup and go after your children. See, they may not get your children. So they may say, okay, I'll go back and regroup again, and then come right back and go after your grandchildren. Then they'll go after your spouse. Then they'll go after your friends, your parents. They won't stop. So if the enemy is not stopping, what's our problem? And so many of the believers are getting to a place where we are finding ourselves constantly living these defeated lives because we keep stepping out on a battlefield not ready to battle. And God is saying to us today, for the blessings that I have in store for you, for the things that I want to do for you and I want to give to you, especially the things I want you to walk into in 2019, you're going to get it, but you got to fight for it. It's a fight coming with it. And so it is this moment where where God is sharing here in the book of Deuteronomy, where he's making it very clear that, guys, you're going to have to fight for this. I love the book of Deuteronomy. I do. I love it. It's encouraging because it is the book where God gives the law again. Yeah, this is after God had given the law in Exodus, but the children of God broke them. Literally. They were broken. And now Deuteronomy is here where he gives us the law again. Now, this may not be encouraging to you, but I want to tell you how encouraging it is to me when God gives you the law again. Because remember, this is Old Testament. Folk die for breaking the law. They broke the law. And of course had to deal with all the consequences. And I might as well go ahead and drop this in your spirit because there are some consequences that come when you constantly continue to break the things that God has established for your life. If you're not careful, come on, let's just be honest. He gave them the law in Exodus. They got so overwhelmed and they got so full of their fear and full of themselves that they got in their feelings because of what they knew the promise was over their life. But when they saw the obstacles they had to go through, caused them to start doing things that were totally against the things of God, totally against disobedient to God. And because of that, it caused them to have to deal with certain things. I mean, at the end of the day, them reaching their place in God, it got delayed. I mean, gosh, success gets delayed when you want to do things your way. Yes, it slows up a process. There are things that gets delayed when you decide that I know what God is saying, but no, I think I should do it this way. It'll delay your success. Not only will it delay your success, but man, I'm telling you, it gets us to a place where it brings us to a point where it disconnects us from our level of connectivity to God. You don't hear God like you used to. When you start doing things your way, it messes with the synergy. That your connection with God gets thrown off. He says that not only is that happening, but also your stride gets derailed. That this trip, them going to their place of promise, should have taken days, ends up taking years. Ooh. Because they decide to do things their way. Can you imagine how God felt watching them? All the blessings he gave to them, all the doors he opened for them, all the promises he made and told them, pulling them all of what he pulled them out of, all the miracles he showed to them, for them to still decide that I'm not going to do it God's way. And God says, you're not ready. You can't be ready for this level of success because if I take you there and you're not doing what I tell you to do, how are you going to handle the strategy of fighting a war when you're not listening to command? He's making it clear. But this is what I love. Because though they had to deal with their issues, they had to deal with the consequences, Deuteronomy shows to us where God presents them with the law again. God, thank you that you did not allow my breaking of the law in Exodus to keep you from still extending the law again to me in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is the 5th book of the Bible. Number 5 is the number of God's grace. And I know you don't like to talk about, people don't normally talk about grace and Old Testament, but really what you got is a foreshadowing of what God is going to continue to do through Jesus Christ, where even when you're messy, this isn't for everybody. These are for the folk who messed up and you know it. I want to talk to you for just a moment. Is there anybody here that have messed up over and over again? And you serve a God and you're still thankful to God that God gave you another chance. I mean, we could have said he's a God of a second chance, but then all of you would be disqualified because, come on, we on number 82, 72, 102. Can I get an 89? Can we be honest? And some of us ought to still be telling God, thank you, that the only reason we are here today is because not that we didn't break it, but because God didn't give us what we deserved after we broke it. And he gave us another chance. Who am I talking to in this house? Who can testify that the fact that you're here today is the fact that God looked beyond your mess and still gave you another chance? Can somebody give God about 20 seconds of another chance praise? Thank you, God. I messed it up, but you gave me another chance. Jacked up my relationship with my kids, but you gave me another chance. Messed up my relationship with my family, but you gave me another chance. Messed all the money up, but God, I thank you that you gave me a little bit more. Am I talking to anybody that can say, God, thank you for another chance? He gave me. He gave me. I'm not going to sit here and act like I crossed every T, dotted every I. He gave me another chance. Deuteronomy shows to us here in this book that God is giving you another chance at it. And he said, I'm giving you another chance because at the end of the day, you need to be prepared for the battles and the war that you are about to come up against. And I'm talking to believers today that you got some stuff coming. Let's just be honest. There's some things coming. And the enemy is not playing with you. You're going to have to fight it. And a few things that I want to throw at you before we go, that I want to share with you as we get ready to embark upon this year. I want you to at least kind of get this in your thought pattern, get it in your spirit, that these are things that are actually going to happen that you're going to have to do in order to get the victories that God has for you. Are you ready? Listen, the first thing he says makes it very clear to us of what's got to happen. You've got to do this in order for you to get ready for the battles that's coming your way. First of all, you're going to have to, here it is, you've got to get to a place where you accept reality. Look at somebody and tell them, you got to accept reality. Okay, well, what are you talking about? Verse 1 says, when you go to war against your enemies, you missed it. You've got to accept reality. When you go to war against your enemies, when you go, can somebody shout, not if you go, when you go to war against your enemies, which makes it very clear that if you are a child of God, you can be the nicest person in the world. At the end of the day, there's an enemy out there that can't stand you, don't like you, want your stuff, and at the end of the day, you're going to have to fight for what you have. But I don't mess with nobody. Who cares? You still are going to have to fight. It's imminent. You got a war. Oh, yes, they have declared war on you. On you. I didn't do nothing. I ain't messing with nobody. So, let's be honest. Am I the only person? This is real deal. Is there anybody else here that it messed me up? I'm not going to lie. It messed me up for a minute. I had to get over it. But it messed me up for a season when it dawned on me that there are actually people out there who can't stand me. Don't you dare act brand new. I mean, literally, you're like, well, do I need to buy them a puppy? mean, because I know I'm James. I'm James. Everybody likes me. I'm a nice guy if you get to know me. No, but there are literally people out there. You say my name. Now, come on, y'all, be honest. And I hope you, and maybe because you're still in denial, but that's okay, because God will reveal it to you as well, that there are folk out there that can't stand you. And the reality is some of them don't even know why they don't like you. That's why they have to lie on why they don't like you, because they can't explain why they don't like you, because there's an enemy out there that's influencing them the same way it's influencing others against you. Look at somebody, tell them they're out there. He says, when you fight, you've got to accept it. Watch this. You're going to have to accept the fact that you have enemies. You have to accept the fact they don't like you. You have to accept that. No, and I need to say this as well. I got to rush this. You also have to accept the fact that the text says, when you see them and their horses and their soldiers and see that you're outnumbered. Come here. It's imminent that you are going to fight something that's bigger than you. You're outnumbered. It's going to look overwhelming. I need to help somebody today. It's going to look like you can't handle it by yourself. Guess what? You can't. And God already told you. He didn't say if, he said when. You are going to go through seasons where you're going to come up against some stuff. I want to talk to real people today. Is there anybody here that's come up against some things you're thinking, I can't handle this by myself. I can't. I'll lose my mind trying to. Am I talking to real people? This is too much for me. Anybody ever said that? This is too much for me. Well, I just want you to know that this is not the time to go crazy. If you are going through something that has already shown to you that is too much for you, then you just may be at the right place at the right time. As soon as something overwhelming came, you should have said, yep, I know I'm in the right place. Come on, devil, do what you got to do. Bring it on, because I believe what God is getting ready to do in my life is getting ready to be victorious, because he told me you were coming. He told me. Wait a minute. Not only would you be outnumbered, but you'll also be out-resourced. They got chariots. They got horses. And all you have is a sword and some sandals. Come on, be honest. So stop acting shocked. Come on, don't be shocked when you find yourself being, watch this, not liked by people who's got more than you. Come on. How many people, you know your boss can't stand you, and you like, you making the money? You got the car. I had to catch a ride. I had to Uber to work. And you still want to give me a hard time? Because God already said that there are going to be moments and challenges in your life that are going to seem out. You're going to be outnumbered. You're going to be out-resourced. They're going to have more than you. They're going to be more. They're going to be larger than you. Because sometimes God just wants the situation to look really, really bad. But God doesn't make it look really bad for no reason. He makes it look really bad because when he gets through, he's getting ready to look really, really good. I want to know, do I have any participants of God getting ready to look really, really good in your life? Because you know there's been some things going on that was really, really bad. That report you got, really, really bad, but this is not the time to go crazy. God says, I make it look bad because in a minute when I flip it, I'm about to look really good. Do I have anybody here that's thankful that God is about to make some stuff look good? You're not qualified. You're underqualified. You cannot handle it. It's bigger than you, but guess what? It may be bigger than you, but God is bigger than it. I want to help you today. He says you got to accept the reality. Wait a minute. Not only does he say you have to accept the reality, but you're going to have to get to a place, people of God, that though you accept the reality that yes, you got an enemy, they're going to fight you, you're going to war, but you're going to have to make sure that you avoid the spirit of timidity. Look at somebody and tell them, he just means don't be scared. You cannot allow what you see to control how you behave. Notice that when the priest stood up, they said, and the priest, the one who intercedes on behalf of the people, he stands up and tells the people, yes, you're about to go to war. Yes, in a few minutes, you're about to go to war. He says, in a minute, you're about to come up against some things that's bigger than you and larger than you. And he says, now, when you see this, look at what he tells you what not to do. He says, don't recoil in fear of them. In other words, he's saying, don't allow what you see to cause you to go back. Don't go back to your spot that you normally go back to when you allow fear and anxiety to get the best of you. Come on. God says, in fact, you ought to, that little pillow that you go and put your head under, you ought to throw that thing in the corner and say, if I'm going, I'm not going back to this. He says, no, don't throw the covers over your head and start crying. Don't go back to your old habit. Don't go back to that old relationship. Don't go back making those old calls. Don't go back with those old terms. Don't go. In fact, God said, I'm doing a new thing in you, and I built you to not go backwards, but I built you to go forward. Don't recoil. Don't go back. Somebody shout, don't go back. God is about to do some things in your life this year. He's about to open up some doors for you this year. You better receive it in Jesus' name. But there are going to be some opposition coming this year that is not telling you to go back in your corner. It's not telling you to go back. No, he says, when you get outnumbered, don't be afraid of them. Don't recoil. Don't go backwards. Wait a minute. He didn't just say don't go backwards. I love this. He says, but don't waver in your resolve. In other words, don't allow your fear to push you to make ignorant conclusions. Don't allow what you deal with to cause you to come up with a conclusion that was not God. Remember, God has already declared to you that you are going to win. So whatever you come up against, say whatever you have to say in the middle, but you better close it by saying, God, you told me that I am going to win. See, it gets ignorant when you see something so big, then you say, oh, no, we can't win this. Oh, I can't fight this. No, I'm not able to handle this. No. The end is you win. Whatever you say in the middle, that's up to you. Just don't change what God has already declared is going to be the end. And if he told you you're going to win, then you're going to have to stand in it. You're going to have to declare it. And sometimes it may look overwhelming to you. It may look bigger than you. It may look like something you cannot control or something you cannot handle. But at the end of the day, as soon as you walk in, you ought to say, oh my God, this is a big one. But God, you promised me. You told me that I'm going to fight this. You told me that I'm going to win this. You told me that I'll be victorious in this. Am I talking to any real people in here that sometimes you just got to look at your giants and be able to tell them that, yes, you are bigger than me, but God already told me I got the victory. So the bigger you are, you better help me preach this. It says, don't waver. Don't change. Don't shift your conclusion. Don't waver in your resolve. Let me say it. He says, and don't be full of fear. He says that word fear in the original language literally means don't get tender on me. Don't get soft. If you're ready to fight, don't ball up. Because what God is about to do in your life, watch this. He said it already that I'm the God who got you out of Egypt. Now, do you need to recall your experience with Egypt? Because he says, when you see soldiers outnumbered, chariots and horses, he says, don't trip, because the God who brought you out of Egypt, you do remember that when you were crossing the Red Sea getting out of Egypt, the enemy came, outnumbered you, soldiers, chariots, and horses. God says, stop tripping over something you've seen before. He said, you've seen this before. It's the same script. It's just different characters. You've seen this happen before, and the same God that got you through your past issues. I want to talk to real people in here. I want to talk to somebody that said, this is not my first time around this rodeo. I've ridden this before. It was a different kind of bull. This was a little quicker, but I've ridden one before. Come on, let's be honest. I've had challenges before. I've had a few haters. I didn't know it was you, but I had some before. Am I talking to anybody here? Come on, you've been hated on before. You've been disappointed before. You've been let down before. And God says, you've seen it before, but the same God that got you through your past issues, it's the same God that's going to get you through this one. Stop being afraid. And he makes it very clear and says the reason why you don't have to be afraid, soldier, is because God is with you. Done deal. That the reason why you can tell God, I am going to still win, is because you still have somebody who's undefeated on your team. And God does not lose. And when God does not lose and you're on his side, guess what that means? You're not going to lose either. Do I have a witness in this place? He says, he makes it very clear. He says, you have to be aware now of your godly company. He says, be aware of the fact that God is on your side. You've got good company now. And I don't care what it is that's facing you, what it is that's coming up against you. There's somebody bigger than you and bigger than your enemy. My little sister had a moment. And I've told y'all before, moments we used to pick with her and pick on her and all of that. We didn't treat her right in some moments when we were growing up. Amen, I admit that. Amen. She was the baby sister. She messed up everything. It were boys. We ran the house, and then she came and shifted it all. I remember a particular moment when she and the older brother, I don't know why, Mike just decided to pick on her this day and stuff, and he started picking on her. But Lisa was about it for a minute. Lisa wasn't soft with it. She was going to try to handle her own. So she was trying to go at Mike. We were laughing because we're like, you're not going to win. He's pushing her, has her in the corner, and he's messing with her, popping around the head, and she's getting mad and all of that stuff. Now, this time was what's so interesting because she didn't yell for Dad. She was just hollering, saying, stop. And Daddy heard her. So what was interesting is while we were sitting there laughing, Tim and I laughing out of nowhere, we turned to the side. And Daddy is just standing in the door with a utensil in his hand. It wasn't funny anymore. Mike's back was turned to Dad. And when Lisa got a glimpse that Daddy was watching, she stopped crying. I stopped laughing. She stopped crying. Mike must have thought that he was getting the best of her We were looking like, I didn't do it. Oh, I didn't do it. I'm so sorry. I didn't do it. And as soon as she stopped crying, she actually started smiling. Now, her enemy did not change, but she did. And the reason why she changed is because she recognized she wasn't in the room by herself. I want to know if you recognize that you've got company, that you've got help, that you've got everything you need, even when the enemy comes, how are you going to respond? How are you going to act? Because God is saying, if you had any idea, I can shut this down at any moment. And boy, did he shut it down. And I just want to tell you that you have a God that's watching every move you make. He's watching every moment you are in. He's watching every challenge that you face. And that enemy is so dumb that he doesn't even see that God's got your back. So I want to tell you, as we go into 2019, get a smile on your face. Put some joy in your heart. Stop going crazy when things look crazy in your life. If God be for you, he's more than the world against you. Do I have a witness in this house that can declare that regardless of what I see, God has still promised me the victory? So 2019, I shall win again. Do I have a witness in here? Come on and bless him. Where are my winners today? That shall win again. I shall win again. I shall win again. Devil, you a liar. I shall win again.